Never before in the history of sports podcasts have two men brought you opinion and analysis like these two. They speak for a city that's desperate for wins and titles, not whining and travesty. You might not agree with what they have to say, but you'll defend their right to say it. Sports fans across the world, from Chicago, Illinois, this is the Mac and Reed Show.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome into another edition of the Mac and Reed Show right here on the Barroom Network. And remember, if you've missed any of our previous shows, you can catch them on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, wherever you get your media. Remember to like, subscribe to the Barroom Network. Follow us on Twitter. Follow me at the Real Evan Mac. Follow Ross at Ross Reed. Been a while. Bonjour, Ross. How we doing?
Bonjour. Came back from London and Paris, which was both very, very lovely. As everybody knows, I got the plates to show for it.
Snap! Show off those plates.
There you go. There's London and Paris, among with some other things. Brought back some champagne and some.
The Paris one doesn't even look like a plate.
No, yeah. Sometimes you got to go a little unique, but yes, sure. Beautiful time. Went 4,000 miles away to see the Bulls get a victory, among other things. Food.
Right.
Got to go to a restaurant, and across from us at the restaurant, I see this woman sitting there. I was like, gosh, she looks so familiar. And it was Tyra Banks. It was supermodel Tyra Banks in the middle of a restaurant in Paris. So I was very happy to say that I can be in the at least we probably weren't spending the same amount of money in that restaurant, but to at least be somewhat close to her in a restaurant was pretty cool.
Did you say hello?
I did not say hello.
I don't even know what you say to Tyra Banks.
We keep it professional. You got to act like you've been there, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Don't want to fangirl out. I get it, Ross.
No. Plus, she was probably with a couple people that would have kicked my ass.
Yeah, perhaps. You never know. Got a lot to get to on the show today, and we'll be talking a bit about the Bears to begin the show. If there's any news that Ross wants to brief us on as we prepare for the draft, and offseason is well underway, but we'll be talking at length about the NFL Conference Championship games coming this Sunday in the NFC and AFC. Bengals, Chiefs, and 49ers, Eagles. What a great Final Four. And what happens to the losers from the divisional round? The Bills, the Cowboys, the Jags, the Giants. Also, where's Tom Brady going? What's he doing? What's Aaron doing? Mr. Rodgers in Green Bay. We'll speak on the NBA as well. Surprises along the way. We'll check in on if Ross is watching The Last of Us and all sorts of fun stuff throughout the show. To begin, Ross, Bears offseason, there's not a ton of headlines right now. I know that basically the headlines are just what to look forward to as far as, the Senior Bowl. There's the East-West Shrine game. Those are the two big sort of dress rehearsals for a lot of these young men who want to be drafted in April. And it will be interesting to see as far as all these analysts, big boards, and our own Barroom Network, who we will track throughout the offseason leading up to the draft. So that'll be interesting. Other than that, it's the scouting combine, things like that. But what else are you looking forward to in this Bears offseason? Anything in particular, Ross?
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact that Luke Getsy gets to coach one of these teams is really big, because he gets an up close and personal view of some pretty good talent on the offensive side of football too. There's a pretty deep draft on the offensive side, so it's going to be huge for Getsy, number one, to get that experience underneath his belt. I'm sure that he's going to try and go for a head coaching job, especially if he has some success over the next couple of years. With the Bears, but also he gets an up close and personal, view of talent and how some of these guys might be able to fit into their system. Right, the Bears have a lot of question marks. What are they going to do at the running back position? I got some thoughts on that coming up here, and then from there, I think Ryan Poles didn't really want to send his entire staff to one of these games because he wanted them to kind of spread out and disperse and go around and look at all the talent all over the place. And so we got the Senior Bowl in Mobile and the East-West game, stuff like that. It's going to be really fun to see how they look at those guys and who they target in free agency, knowing that they're probably going to have to fill in some holes in the draft as well, and they have to start setting their big board for they have to set their big board 3 or 4 different ways, in my opinion. Number one, you have to assume that still we don't know if anybody will theoretically move up to the first overall pick. We all assume that somebody will right now, but what if that doesn't happen? What do you do if that doesn't happen, right? A couple drafts that come out this week. I've seen Jalen Carter at the top. Is that who you're going to pick? Versus, what does your big board look like if you are 4th overall, let's say, hypothetically, in Indianapolis comes up and gets that pick, versus Frank Wright just got hired today as the Carolina Panthers' new head coach, right? They're sitting at number 9. I can promise you, Frank Wright does not want another retread quarterback. So maybe they jump up to the number 1 spot to draft a quarterback. And maybe the Bears are at 9. And then who do they look for at that position? And so they've got a lot of maneuvering and a lot of different big boards that they have to go here. But for now, a lot of it to me is just putting some eyes on these young men coming out of college, seeing who you want to really take a closer look at in the combine, and then narrow that even down further to the personal workouts. Because as our friend at the Barroom Network, former Bears scout Greg Gabriel will tell you, it's really the personal workouts where teams really key in a lot of these prospects and say that's the guy that we really want in these big boards, right? You can kind of test them better, quiz them, you get them one-on-one, you see the rapport that they build. So that's important. But I think free agency is we're focusing a lot on the draft, but the free agency is going to be massive for Chicago. I don't think people realize how massive this free agency, probably the most important free agency in Bears history.
Yeah, with all the cap space, you hit it on the head there. I think that'll dictate, obviously, the draft too, and vice versa. You kind of play off the both of them. So big things happening for the Bears, and we talked about obviously Kevin Warren being named Bears president, and how involved he will be remains to be seen. But Luke Getsy going to be involved and have a very good look at these young men in the Senior Bowl. We'll see who moves up. We're already seeing the quarterbacks and all these rankings sort of that Mel Kiper and all these guys would put up as far as who's tops of the draft, and that's already changing, and it could absolutely change more with the Senior Bowl and all of the offseason activity that these college athletes are going to get to. So it'll be interesting to see, needless to say. But we are definitely in the midst of this NFL. We're in the final 6 games, or excuse me, 3 games of this of this NFL season. It seems to have flown by as far as the playoffs are concerned, and now we got the Final Four, and Bengals, Chiefs, as far as the AFC Championship is concerned, and 49ers, Eagles. I feel like no one has been giving the Bengals their due, as they've been sort of underdogs going into this entire playoff race. And now the Eagles, the overwhelming favorite for good reason, best record in the league, and road goes through Philly to go to the Super Bowl. If you're the 49ers, really, really great matchups here. And, it's as we talked about, we're both really heavy on the Bengals right now, especially after we're seeing, Patrick Mahomes and get his sort of high ankle sprain, that injury where he's practicing in full today for the first time, it seems. And that could be very big to affect his mobility, and for him to gut it out and still get the win. Just a lot of credit to him. But we know Joe Burrow's record at Arrowhead is really good. He's 3-0 against Pat Mahomes, and they're calling it Burrowhead. And the Bengals are really a nasty, well put together team, just on every level. And Joe Burrow playing out of his mind. Patrick Mahomes will have to play really well, and that home field advantage could certainly be right in their favor. What do you think of this matchup, Ross? Well, before we jump to the NFC one.
Yeah, listen, I love this matchup. I think you get the best 2 quarterbacks in the AFC right now, if not maybe in all of football. I know people are big Josh Allen fans. I think we've talked about this on the show. I got Joe Burrow as the second best quarterback in the NFL. He's right there as number 2 behind Pat Mahomes, especially when it's nut crunching time, when it's time when the money needs to fold instead of jingle in the playoffs. this is a big time where he really comes to play. And he went in there last week in Buffalo, and he absolutely took that team out with all the emotion that they had coming off of the Damar Hamlin situation and everything that they had all year. And for him to be able to play like that, this guy is, not to give him the Joe Cool moniker, because I know a lot of people are calling him that, but that still to me belongs to Joe Montana. You're gonna have to win some rings before you steal that away from Joe Montana. But Joe Burrow is an amazing quarterback. I love his moxie. I love his swagger. I love his confidence. And he backs it up on the field. And you get a hobbled Patrick Mahomes. We've seen Patrick Mahomes in the past. As with any quarterback, the best way to beat them is to really disrupt them in the pocket, right? We saw the Buccaneers do that in the Super Bowl and able to come away with a win for them. And that injury worries me for Mahomes, because even in the second half of that game last week, he didn't look too sharp. He missed some throws. He was really getting the football out of his hands very quickly. Luckily, he has a Hall of Fame tight end in Travis Kelce, but if the Bengals come out here and they really key in and focus on Kelce, and they say, okay, I'm going to make you beat us by throwing the football to Juju Smith-Schuster and Marquez Valdez-Scantling and, Isaiah Pacheco and some of these other non-Travis Kelce players, I really think that the Bengals can win this football game. And I picked them at the start of the playoffs to win the football game, to win the AFC. I picked them with the 49ers to go to the Super Bowl, and I'm going to stay with that. There's 4 teams left. I think they're still the best. They're the 2 best teams of the 4 remaining. And I'm going to pick the Bengals to go on the road in Kansas City and win. They started off on Sunday as underdogs, and then they moved to favorites, obviously with the Mahomes news, and now they're back to underdogs today. It's Chiefs -1 right now. This might as well be a pick'em game, excuse me. But it's going to come down to which quarterback has the football last, but also it could come down to the health of the 2 quarterbacks, and I really like where Joe Burrow's at right now.
Yeah, certainly the quarterbacks are garnering all the headlines right now in Joe Burrow and Pat Mahomes, who, like you said, Ross, are easily 1-2 for the best quarterbacks in the league right now. And Joe Burrow really even just as quick of a jump to the league like Pat Mahomes had, and going to the Super Bowl relatively quickly. Obviously not the result he wanted last year, but that experience certainly motivated him, and he has just been phenomenal. And it's not just the connection to Jamar Chase, but he also just has, and then the big buzz with that wide receiver group is T. Higgins being a free agent, potentially going to the Bears. And if you ask any of these analysts and guys around the league, he's a number 1 on any other team in T. Higgins. So you got between him and Jamar Chase and Hayden Hurst, what a great signing he has been. He's been all over the field. So those are important weapons for him. And obviously Joe Mixon, we know what he's capable of, and Samaje Perine. The defense has been really impressive. Sam Hubbard anchoring that unit. And it's not a ton of guys who will be all pro, but as a unit, again, they're able to shut down wide receivers. They're able to go and stop the run. They're able to dictate these games, and they've been on the road this entire time essentially for the playoffs. It was a really impressive win last week, and now it's the toughest challenge yet, obviously, with the Mahomes show and who he has at his disposal. As you mentioned, obviously Travis Kelce is going to be number 1 on their list of guys to stop across the line there. But I do think I agree with you, Ross, and the edge goes to the Bengals. They have a lot of momentum now, and you think playing their best football against the Bills and really shutting them down, never giving them a chance to come back in that game, that's incredibly tough. I know Arrowhead is one of the toughest places to play in, but Joe Burrow, so much credit to go to him and the rest of this team. It's quite an effort for sure. Did you, on the note of the Bengals, what'd you think about Eli Apple and sort of trading these blows with the Bills and the Damar Hamlin stuff? Obviously he apologized for, and I think it was maybe taken out of context, but I think I love seeing that trash talk. And on 3 Cancun, there's a part of me, but I know a lot of people thought it wasn't exactly Eli Apple's place to be talking trash like that. But I think, you're walking the walk and talking the talk at this point if you're Eli Apple and the Bengals.
It is. And listen, Eli Apple has been a punching bag in this league for a long time now. A lot of people pick on him. They call him burnt toast out there and stuff like that. So, for him to be able to throw that back, it's okay. Listen, it's football, it's sports. It's, to one of our favorite rappers, Tyler the Creator, said, if you don't like internet bullying, just log off.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to see it,
off
just
social
log,
media.
just log off. Just log off. You don't have to see it. So I'm okay with it, but he better back it up on Sunday, right? Because I promise you, half of the players in the NFL and fan bases are going to come right after him, like they did last year in the Super Bowl. Against, after he got torched a couple times by Cooper Kupp and stuff like that. So he knows how to throw it out there. He knows how to take it as well.
Yeah, no question. I really like this AFC Championship matchup. As far as the Chiefs, they certainly have just as much of a chance as the Bengals, and this could be easily, sort of repeat-like game like we saw with the Chiefs and the Bills last year. It was just very close, and obviously we saw the Bengals in the same scenario advance to the Super Bowl. So it should be a fun game. I don't think it'll be a blowout by any means. It'll be very close. I know it's only and I think the Bengals are 5-1-1. It said across the spread here at the bottom of the ticker, or at the ticker at the bottom of your screen if you're watching on YouTube with us. But you got to like what the Bengals are doing right now, Joe Burrow. What about the NFC, Ross? We're talking about the Eagles and how they've turned it around completely, and they've certainly been the favorite to go not only to this NFC Championship game, but go to the Super Bowl, and playing really great football all around, very balanced, just like the Bengals, where they have a great defense. They have Jalen Hurts playing really well, and he has such a great bunch of wide receivers around him with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and it's a lot about the tight ends. I feel like in this last couple of games as well, as George Kittle and the 49ers go up against the Eagles now too, and Goddard. But I know you're really hot on the Eagles, I know you're really hot on the 49ers and pick them to go to the Super Bowl. What's the key for them to sort of upset the Eagles and go to the Super Bowl? What do you think?
Yeah, it's contain Jalen Hurts in the pocket, right? Use Bosa and use Fred Warner and Eric Armstead and a lot of those guys to contain Jalen Hurts in the pocket and make him beat you from the pocket. And again, remember, this is a guy coming off of a shoulder injury and a couple other nagging injuries. So I'm not quite sure how much he wants to run, but if you keep him in the pocket and you are able to shadow AJ Brown, make other guys beat you on that field. Make Devontae Smith beat you on that field, right? Makes a couple of those guys, Dallas Goedert, beat you on the field, right? That's really important. And then to me, it's like, how are you going to match up? The 49ers have so many weapons on offense. They have Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle, who feels like he's been rejuvenated, and Brandon Ayuk right now. And so can Brock Purdy just make enough of those pinpoint throws like he did, not really in the first half of that last game? That first half, he was a little shaky, but that's okay, right? Because, he's a young quarterback. He's a 7th round pick. He looked a lot better in that second half of that game. He looked more like a quarterback that could go to the Super Bowl. Obviously, he's going to have to deal with a very raucous, feisty crowd in Philadelphia. They're going to be rocking and rolling. I think that's the first game of the day, right? Or is the AFC game the first game of the day? I can't remember. Whichever. You don't want those people drinking more throughout the day.
Yeah, it's the NFC game first, Ross.
Yes. Okay, there you go. And getting more feisty, right? So,
yes, sir.
We get that game as the early one. We get the nightcap with the Chiefs in the Bengals. But to me, it's keeping Jalen Hurts in the pocket, making him beat you from the pocket, and then from there, it's quick passes, because the Eagles have the best pass rush in football. It's quick passes, getting the ball out of Purdy's hands, and getting those one-on-one matchups for Samuel, Kittle, Ayuk, and McCaffrey. I think this is a much difficult game to call. I still have the 49ers because I do trust their roster more. But obviously, it would not shock me at all. The Eagles have been the best team in the NFC all year long. So obviously, it wouldn't shock me if they went. But I'm still going to hold strong with the 49ers. I think this is a lower scoring game than people realize. I think the shootout comes in the AFC matchup. I think it's going to be a low scoring, just like slug them out kind of football game, very similar to that 49ers Cowboys game. And I got the 49ers winning by a hair, possibly with an ex-Bear Robbie Gould field goal.
Robbie Gould just killing it in the playoffs too. One of the best playoff kickers around. It was funny to see him and Maher and all the storylines last week with the Cowboys and 49ers. If you look for an edge, it'll certainly be at quarterback. And every week it seems Brock Purdy continues to impress even more and just do enough, right? Because he has all these great weapons around him. These are his first starts in the NFL, and it's just unbelievable that he has found his way to the NFC Championship game. But there's a reason he's in this position, right? So he's got to lean heavily on the run game. And with that in mind, Christian McCaffrey said there's no way he's not playing, but he's got his bruised calf that he is sort of nursing after the Cowboys game, but I'm sure he will be fine. Everybody will be a go as far as that talented 49ers offense goes with Debo and Brandon Ayuk. And, there'll be a lot of tricks up their sleeve. And McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell is a great 1-2 punch right there. But, yeah, can Purdy do enough in Philadelphia? I don't see it. I see the Eagles taking this one close. It should be probably a field goal or two type of game. But I see them controlling the pace, right? I see that, again, to the credit of the Eagles, and everybody's talking about Jalen Hurts as the system quarterback. He's shown you that he can do more than run the football, and he's done a lot through the air. Really just a great manager of the game when they're on offense, able to milk a lot of clock and dictate the pace with Miles Sanders and company around there. So I think they just get enough of an edge right there. But the 49ers, it's a tough draw. I love all four of these teams. They're very deserving, considering we'll talk about the losers in a little bit, but I got the Eagles by a hair.
And you just touched on the most important part to me is no matter what the Super Bowl combination will be, whether it's Chiefs Eagles, Chiefs 49ers, Bengals Eagles, Bengals 49ers, I think we got the best four teams left in the NFL. I think we got a good matchup regardless of what we get, and that's all you can ask for when you go to the Super Bowl. It feels like sometimes every now and then you get one of those fluky teams that makes it to the championship game or even the Super Bowl. You don't really feel good about them, right? But to me, regardless of who wins on Sunday, I feel really good about the Super Bowl matchup being very, very even 2 weeks from this Sunday, right? Let's say hypothetically it's Mahomes versus that Eagles team, right? That's a fun matchup. That's a good matchup. That's an elite quarterback versus a damn good roster that's been put together. Or if it's Joe Burrow going against the 49ers, like I'm picking right now, you kind of get that old school Boomer Esiason versus Joe Montana Super Bowl rematch. But that's a fun game. This is Joe Burrow, who's ascending to be one of the league's best superstars, along with Jamar Chase versus a 49ers team that is as complete as it gets. And who doesn't love a Cinderella story like Brock Purdy, right? It could be inconceivable that a guy can go from Mr. Irrelevant, last pick in the draft, to he's 4 quarters away from winning a Super Bowl. If he wins this game on Sunday, that is just absolutely wild. That's even better than what Roethlisberger did in his young start of his career and what Tom Brady did coming off the bench for Drew Brees. And it opens the door to, even regardless of what happens on Sunday, to me, it opens the door to what do the 49ers do? How do you give that football back to Trey Lance next year, right? Like you don't even know who Trey Lance is as a quarterback. He couldn't stay healthy. You don't know who he is. Brock Purdy has your team on the doorstep of a Super Bowl berth. And to me, this very well could be Brock Purdy's team for the next year and the year after that. And the 49ers might trade Trey Lance. Yeah, the 49ers might say, look, there's going to be a team in this draft coming up that is not going to be happy with trading all their picks to the Bears or trading all their picks to the Seahawks or something like that. And if they feel like they can get Trey Lance for 75 cents on the dollar, if you're the Carolina Panthers today, right, who got Frank Wright, and he's like, and the 49ers like, just give us 2 2s or give us a 2 and a 3 for Trey Lance. Sure, why not? Why wouldn't you do something like that? So, or even like the Packers. Let's say the Packers trade Aaron Rodgers, which is a very, very possible. I'm calling it right now. Aaron Rodgers will be a Jet in the coming months. He will be on the Jets. He will be traded there.
Yes.
Why wouldn't the Packers call the 49ers and say, what will it take for you to give us Trey Lance? And we'll roll the dice with him and Jordan Love at the same time. And kind of let those two guys duke it out and see who's the better quarterback. So it's going to be interesting. There's going to be a lot of storylines coming out of this football game, and in the next couple weeks for not only our Bears but the entire NFL. We can talk about it now if you want to. I'm pro Saquon Barkley to the Bears. I've seen a lot of rhetoric this week going against that. You people are insane. I don't think people realize that the Bears have to spend $200 million in this offseason just to stay compliant. They have to spend 120 new money. They have to spend a lot of money. And if that means signing one of the best running backs in the league on a 4-year deal, or a 5-year deal, but guaranteeing him 2 years at about, $30 million, I'm all in for that. That's $15 million a year. You see literally what Christian McCaffrey is doing right now for Brock Purdy and the 49ers. And Saquon Barkley would be an absolute elite addition to the Chicago Bears. I don't get the pushback on it. Not your money. They have to spend it anyway. And he's one of the best players in the league. And everybody's like, well, they can go get this guy. They can go get DeAndre Hopkins. You don't know if those guys are available. Just like I don't know if Saquon's available either, because the Giants could just re-up with him or give him the franchise tag. But if he's on the board, he is a tremendous upgrade over David Montgomery. I love you, David Montgomery, but you got to pick it in. And they have so much money. I've seen people say that. They have so much money to spend. You can get Saquon Barkley and still get De'Aaron Payne, and that is $35 million a year, and you still have $90 million to spend. I don't get how people are against this. They have so much money to spend. You have to surround Justin Fields with as much quality talent as possible. It is a no-brainer.
Interesting. Chime in on the comments, Barflies. If you are against it, tell us why against Saquon. If you're seeing, this is an interesting tangent, but if you're seeing T. Higgins in free agency and Saquon, that's it? You're just saying Saquon? Not even considering T. Higgins?
So remember, T. Higgins is not a free agent. He's got one more year left on his deal with the Bengals. So you have to trade for T. Higgins. So here are a lot of guys that the Bears fans are talking about, right? You have to trade for T. Higgins. If the Bengals even want to trade him, how do we know if the Bengals want to trade him, right? They might want to say, we want to dump all our money into Burrow, Higgins, and Chase, and then he's off the table. I've seen DeAndre Hopkins. If you're complaining about Saquon Barkley, you cannot complain about DeAndre Hopkins. You have to complain about DeAndre Hopkins, who is older. He's 30 plus years old. He's going to want a new contract.
Yeah,
He's injury prone, right? I've seen Mike Evans thrown out there. Again, you have to trade picks for these kind of guys and potentially give them new money, right? I've seen the only guy that I'm a huge fan of is Jacoby Myers, wide receiver from the New England Patriots, right? But guess what? You can give Jacoby Myers and Saquon Barkley money, and you are still significantly under the cap. And that's the thing, what the people don't realize. It's like, it's not smart to spend the money here or there. Guess what? You got so much money, you can be a little bit stupid on this. You have to spend money. Saquon Barkley, Joel Curry, who's is a great follow on Twitter. He's a former front office guy. He had a piece today. He made the rounds on Chicago Sports Talk Radio. He said the Bears have to spend $200 million in this offseason, right? And then he came out with an article saying Saquon Barkley's deal, depending on when you look at how the things are looking right now, from Derrick Henry's deal to Christian McCaffrey's deal to Alvin Kamara's deal, it's really a 2-year deal, and you're giving him $15 million a year. That's worth it to me. I'm giving him $15 million for the next 2 years, right? And if it doesn't work out, I cut him. And there's no more guaranteed money, right? That is absolutely worth it to me. That's worth it to me. You're going to have to spend $14 million this offseason to give Cole Kmet new money. Sure, he's fine, right? Darnell Mooney is going to want $18 million a year. Sure, he gets like 2 touchdowns a year. That's fine, right? Chase Claypool, he's going to want new money. Is he that good? Is Chase Claypool a better player than Saquon Barkley? But he's going to want more money than Saquon Barkley. These are the kind of things that when I hear Bears fans saying they don't want Saquon Barkley, I'm like, look at the alternatives, and guess what? You can still give all of those guys money, and you're still well under the salary cap. That's how much stupid money that they have this offseason.
Well, that's true, but you also got to address the defense, and this is so early on. We don't know how the Giants are going to play this situation with Barkley. I know in the comments someone mentioned franchising him potentially. And Ross, they're hating on GM Ross over here.
Okay.
But
That's
hey,
okay. I like it.
it's all
I like
the
it.
rumor mill right now, right?
What
And
I
everybody's gonna put different priorities and
what I have
different.
to say too is the status quo has not worked. You're going to have to shake the tree a little bit, and you're going to have to do some things a little different, right? Either a lot of people wanted Tony Pollard before he got hurt. Sure, Tony Pollard was going to want the same kind of money and stuff like that. So I'm all about surrounding my quarterback, who's still on a rookie deal, with as much elite talent as possible. Giants will go to the playoffs without Saquon Barkley this year. That's how damn good he is. And I put money that Justin Fields is a better quarterback than Daniel Jones. So, we can go from there. We can see how it all shakes out. But you can add all your pieces to the defense. You can go get yourself a wide receiver. You can pay extensions and still bring in Saquon Barkley and still have like $35, $40 million left over. That's how much money they have.
Yeah, they do have a lot, over almost 120 million, and that's going to fill a lot of voids in this Bears offense and defense. But going back to sort of this offseason conversation, first of all, too, so you're picking 49ers Bengals in Super Bowl?
49ers Bengals. I'm going with those two teams in the Super Bowl. I got the Bengals. I got both games to be very close, hard fought football games. If you're betting, I would take the over on the AFC game, and I would take the under on the NFC game. But I got both games within 2 to 3 points from each other.
I would take the Eagles representing the NFC, and I'm taking the Bengals representing the AFC. I think there's a lot to be said about Joe Burrow, and what they mentioned it last weekend when the Bills were playing the Bengals, and just we're seeing this now the last few years. The duels between Mahomes and Burrow, and throwing Josh Allen in there, and how impressive those three young men are, and just Josh Allen, we'll get to him in a moment, and how tough it is to recover from that loss when you're so close and you're favored to go to the Super Bowl all year like that. It's a whole nother story. But we're also seeing new faces like Jalen Hurts, and circling back to all your points about Trey Lance and the 49ers quarterback situation. When was the last time we saw a Cinderella story like this? Besides, you look at the Eagles and Nick Foles and the run that they had when Carson Wentz went out to their Super Bowl victory over the Patriots. It's incredible. And you root for that underdog story and Mr. Irrelevant when it's Brock Purdy, but you got to think his luck might run out at some point. I think it does Sunday, and Eagles advance and they play the Bengals. And I won't be mad at any matchup between these four teams. It'll still be great. And the coaching too, between Sirianni and Shanahan, Andy Reid, obviously so great, and Zach Taylor with the Bengals, who's one of the best up and coming young coaches out there. Exciting.
Yes, it's exciting. You bring up Cinderella stories. I think in my lifetime we've seen, obviously Brock Purdy right now, if he's able to pull this game off. But you mentioned Nick Foles, and that was taking down Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. I remember the Jake Delhomme Super Bowl year with the Carolina Panthers. I remember Tom Brady beating the greatest show on turf, and they were double-digit underdogs heading into that game before they beat that Rams team. If you're an old guy like me, we remember the Jeff Hostetler year for the Giants, and him being able to win a Super Bowl there as well. So this is exciting. This is fun stuff. This is, to me, it's my second favorite weekend of the playoffs, because I think we get really, really high-end quality football. Very rarely, knock on wood, very rarely do you see the blowouts in the AFC and the NFC championship games. And then hopefully, as fans, we get two high-quality football games this Sunday. The booths, can I say I miss Joe Buck and Troy?
Man, you just took the words out of my mouth. You're gonna miss him when he's gone.
I miss Joe. Can we just get Joe and Buck? Can they just put him on loan like a soccer team for a game? I miss those guys so much. I could not believe last weekend, this is the NFL playoffs, and you have Greg Olson's fine. I actually think Greg Olson's pretty good, but they had Daryl Moose Johnson calling a massive playoff game.
Yeah,
and I'm just like, wait, what? We have Daryl Moose Johnson and some guy that I've never even heard of. He looks like a Joe Buck knockoff calling these games. give me the big guns, please, for these big games. I love Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, and I miss those guys very, very dearly heading into this weekend, heading into these playoffs, but definitely heading into this weekend. Tony's fine. Tony Romo's been good. I've been watching a lot of NFL playoffs on airplanes the last couple of weeks on 7 and 9 hour flights. But yeah, the Moose Johnson thing really bothered me this weekend. And I was like, Olsen should have been the number 2, and we should have had some Buck.
Well, you what? Get Burkhardt and Olsen this weekend, and then Jim Nance and Tony Romo. It's fine.
Correct.
It's fine.
But
fine. You'd much
who gets the Super Bowl this year? Is that a AFC? I mean, is that a CBS? Is that I don't know who gets the Super Bowl.
It probably says right here.
Aldo will let us know. He'll look it up.
Fox. Might be Greg Olsen.
Is it? It's on Fox.
Yeah, it's Fox. Yeah. According to the ESPN.
They might sneak Tom Brady in there. I wish you could bet on this. They might sneak Tom Brady in there for a game. You never know.
You'll see Sean. Oh man, see Sean Payton back there.
Yeah,
for sure. I love people. People are loving Greg Olsen.
He's great. He's great. He's great. Moose Johnson, not so much.
Not so much. All right, let's talk about the losers real quick, Ross, as we wrap up the NFL. Bills and Cowboys, Jags and Giants on to next year. The Bills, like, what can you say? And add an insult to injury, Stephon Diggs, and going back and forth with Eli Apple. It's very tough if you're not only the Josh Allen or anybody on this Bills roster, but the fans too. It's heartbreaking for them to go back into the offseason without having made a run at least to the Super Bowl, I feel like, and winning the whole damn thing. But you wonder what the offseason will look like for them when they seem to have figured it all out. I know they were dealing with injuries, and you wonder if Von Miller was healthy, if they would have had a different sort of pass rush there, if that would have made a huge impact. That running game seems like it needs a certain spark too. They can't just lean on Singletary and the other kid right now.
Or Josh Allen.
Yeah, or Josh Allen. I mean, he's basically playing tailback every play there too.
You know what I noticed?
Take those hits.
Yeah, you know what I noticed with the Bills, and I actually noticed this in the Bears game at Soldier Field when it was brutally cold outside and nobody wanted to go to that football game. What was that? Was that the day after Christmas or the day before?
Christmas
New Year's?
Eve was that
Christmas
Bills
Eve,
game,
right?
When it was negative.
Yeah. What I noticed is, and this is very ironic, for a team that comes from Buffalo, New York, where it arguably gets as cold as it gets anywhere in the NFL and they play outdoors, they are a poorly built team to handle the cold and the elements, in my opinion. That team is a team built for speed, and it's built for athleticism, and it's built to be almost indoors, like in Los Angeles. They do better in that regard. I looking at the game, even with the Bears, and Stephon Diggs was absolutely quiet. He couldn't catch the football. He just didn't look like he wanted to be out on the football field, along with Gabe Davis and some of the other guys. And I think that translated again to this week. You looked at him out there. That was a home game for them, and they were the ones slip sliding everywhere. They couldn't get their footing. They wouldn't catch the football. The guys in the secondary just looked absolutely lost, and they were a step slow. And I'm like, this Bills team is not built for the elements that they're supposed to win the game. And you're supposed to go to Buffalo and be absolutely terrified to play them. So I think they have to, in the offseason, get a lot nastier. They got to get a lot meaner. It comes with getting some power guys on the offensive line and in the backfield because you can't just run Josh Allen 25 times a game, right? They're going to have to get some power running games. They paid Dawson Knox, their tight end, $13 million a year to do not a goddamn thing. And so you have to kind of look at that situation. And I think they need a possession receiver. They were using Cole Beasley. Cole Beasley was out of the league. He was playing with his kids, on the sofa and not having a vaccine like 8 weeks ago. And all of a sudden he's in a big game, making plays. And in the secondary, I know they were short. Obviously, with DeMar Hamlin was out and they were missing a couple guys, but that was no excuse for guys like Jordan Poyer and stuff like that, who were just a second slow every single time. You let Jamar Chase go out there and run all over you. And that guy's from Louisiana. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he looked more comfortable in the cold and the snow than them. And so I was really down on that Bills team after that. They're going to have to tweak that roster and get a lot meaner and get a lot nastier in the offseason. And they got some guys who are free agents. Tremaine Edmonds is a free agent, right? They're star linebacker. They got some decisions to make. That's another guy that the Bears could potentially target and still pay him and sign Saquon Barkley. I digress. But the Bills are definitely going to have to tweak that roster because they're wasting some valuable Josh Allen years right now. And also he has to be better. He has to be better as well. He's not absolved the blame of this at all.
Well, it just shows how close it is between the Chiefs, the Bills, and the Bengals, and somebody's got to come out a loser at the end of this too. And so the other three losers, at least they have their quarterback situation figured out. But what can you say about the Cowboys too, and how going into this, I thought that they would make just as much noise as the Eagles and potentially go to that NFC Championship game, and a lot of fire coming with Dak too, and the rest of that defense. And you have some of the best players in football defensively too, Micah Parsons and Trayvon Diggs. And you look at the run that Tony Pollard had, but it was, it could have gone either way between them and the 49ers. But you could say the same with the Giants and Daniel Jones. This is a big offseason for them, but at least they've solidified what they have going on there, and certainly an underdog story with the Jags. You'll see what Trevor Lawrence is able to do as he progresses, and they sort of turn that franchise around, and they have something to build on going forward. So they're not all in terrible places. It's just little tweaks where you think they could easily be right back here next year in the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, for the Cowboys, listen, the quarterback has to be better. We talked about this over the last couple of weeks of the season. Dak was throwing a ton of interceptions. It's kind of the same MO that for Josh Allen. Josh Allen had the most turnovers in the red zone this year, and that just doesn't. Those kind of things don't translate well in the playoffs. Dak Prescott threw 2 bad interceptions. He almost threw like a third and the fourth one. He should not have to. He should not have been outplayed. In the second half by Brock Purdy, and yet he was. The Cowboys have some decisions to make as well. They fired basically their entire defensive staff today, but they were able to retain Dan Quinn, who pulled his name from head coaching candidates again. And you start to wonder if Mike McCarthy is the answer. I mean, Mike McCarthy, I feel like he's been eating off of one Super Bowl that he got a while ago, but he's by and large a very mediocre coach. Some very questionable play calling to me late in that football game. Some opportunities to go for it on fourth down. He didn't. I don't know what the fuck that play was at the end where Zeke Elliott lined up at center and just got absolutely blasted over. It was just absolutely absurd play call.
And then it's a 10-yard, 10-yard pass. That was weird shit.
Yeah. And so, you look at that entire situation, and every year, Sean Payton decides he doesn't want a job, and every year Mike McCarthy shits the bed, you have to feel like that, it's a foregone conclusion that that has to go there. Speaking to kind of running backs and elite talent, stuff like that, that game did flip to me tremendously when Tony Pollard went out for an injury, because I feel like the Cowboys lost all of their explosion on offense. And Dak Prescott really, really shit the bed without Tony Pollard. But before that, that was a close game. I obviously picked the 49ers. I picked them to go to the Super Bowl, and I thought the Cowboys were going to beat them. And then when Pollard went down with that injury, and let's hope that he recovers well, high ankle sprain and a fractured fibula, I believe it is, that he had, that changed the whole entire game. The Cowboys were not as explosive anymore. Obviously, Zeke Elliott is his legs are done. And that was it. Brock Purdy and that defense were able to withstand them.
Yeah. It's the same story for the Cowboys every year, right? Very close. And they'll have to consider the coaching, the head coach position with Mike McCarthy for sure. They've given him but the NFC East is looking up, that's for sure. As far as quarterbacks moving around, you see you're calling Rodgers going to the Jets. And what about Tom Brady? What happens to Tom?
I think for Tom, you have to look out for Miami. That's my opinion. I thought it was very telling that Gronkowski this week before the game, obviously he talks to Tom all the time. He said Tom wants to go to a place where he can have fun. So there's two things with that. Number one, he basically said Tom Brady's coming back. And then number two, obviously Tom Brady would love to be in Miami. Remember the whole Brian Flores situation basically started because Stephen Ross, an owner who's got Michigan ties, Tom Brady is a Michigan man, basically colluded on a boat to try and get Sean Payton and Tom Brady to the Dolphins one year, and it kind of all blew up in their faces. I think Tom Brady is a foregone conclusion to go to Miami. I don't think Tua Tagovailoa is going to be healthy. I don't know if he's ever even going to play football again. But you put Tom Brady on the field with those weapons in that climate, right? He's already in Florida. It's an easy transition for him. His kids are there. His son just started high school in New York. It's a very quick, flight. A lot of people are putting Vegas out there. I don't see Vegas as a fit for Tom. I think he stays on the East Coast. I think he stays in a warmer climate. And I see him going to the Dolphins, which
California guy.
Yeah, but I think that's so far away from his kids. And Tom, as we all know,
set some roots on the East Coast for sure.
Yeah, he's really close to his family and stuff like that. I think that plays a big part in this. He doesn't want to be away from his kids for too long. So I don't think he's going to go west. I think that's Brock Purdy's job for the 49ers. I don't know where else he would go. Out on the West Coast. And then for me, Derek Carr, to me, he's a perfect fit for Washington. I think Washington should try and really go after Derek Carr. Is that much of an upgrade over Carson Wentz? Probably. Is that much of an upgrade over Taylor Heineke? Maybe. I also, dark horse to me for Derek Carr, I do think that New Orleans would be a good fit for him as well. There
you go. Like that move. Renewable Giselle.
The whoever's left over gets Jimmy Garoppolo.
And Jimmy is the loser in all of this. I don't see Giselle doing the jujitsu instructor, right? Going horseback riding.
Yes.
It will be, fascinating to see Tom Brady in him being 45 years old and how many damn years in the NFL. But I know a lot of teams just would not want any part of Tom Brady. But he was in top 5 in passing, and if you give him good wide receivers and good protection around him, why would you go against the GOAT at this point? You kind of want him to end on a positive note, and look what he did in his first year with Tampa. We shall see. But Aaron Rodgers to the Jets would be also wild to see him in a different uniform and a new system, new coaching. But sometimes there's something to be said for a fresh start for him.
It does. And the Tom Brady to the Dolphins things feels very Brett Favre to the Minnesota Vikings-ish, which, listen, remember, they were basically 1 or 2 plays away from going to the Super Bowl that year. That was the year that the Saints won their Super Bowl. That was an amazing NFC Championship game. And then obviously the next year after that, Corey Wooten, Bears' own Corey Wooten, was able to end Brett Favre's career on a very frozen University of Minnesota field one day. But yeah, the Aaron Rodgers thing is interesting. I think he is going to the Jets. I think that really, really puts a huge microscope on the Robert Saleh. Anything less than a Super Bowl run means that he's probably going to be out of a job fairly quickly. But I think the Packers trade him right now. If you trade Aaron Rodgers, it's a $40 million cap hit for the Packers, which sounds insane because it is. But guess what? If you hold on to him for another year, then it turns into a $60 million cap hit next year. And then that's one more year that you don't know what the hell you have in Jordan Love. And I think that both sides are just done with each other, and it's time to move on. You let Aaron Rodgers go. You get what you can for him. I don't know if the Jets are going to pay maybe possibly 2 first-round picks to get him, but you got to do it for them at that point because this is all hindsight, but had they have drafted Justin Fields over Zach Wilson, they probably were playing in the playoffs this year, and then they could theoretically even be playing this weekend.
Yeah, I just root for the Packers to be in the same position as the Bears for years, and hopefully have a lot of uncertainty at quarterback going forward. And we shall see. We know Aaron Rodgers was super emotional in that last game, leaving the football field, and something to be said about a fresh start, as we talked about. Moving on to the NBA, and we got the All-Star Game starting rosters here, Ross, in sunny Utah and sunny Salt Lake City. I'm not advertising Utah here, or Salt Lake City. So we got Giannis, Kyrie, Donovan Mitchell. You forget he's on Cleveland almost. Kevin Durant and Jason Tatum, 2 Brooklyn Nets on that Eastern Conference starting 5. And then Western Conference, of course, LeBron James, who I think led everybody in All-Star voting for NBA players. Jokic, Ross's favorite for MVP and most people's favorite for MVP. He's playing out of his fucking mind. Steph Curry, Luka Doncic, and Zion Williamson. That's a nice starting 5 for each right there.
It is. And shout out to Zion for getting himself healthy again and getting back
Hell
into
of a
that.
comeback season.
Absolutely. And to be able to see Zion on the court at the same time playing with LeBron James, I can just imagine all the lobs and stuff like that. That's going to be fun. I know a lot of people don't get into it as much anymore. I still like the All-Star game. I still like the weekend festivities. I like watching the dunk
My
contest.
favorite of the All-Star games.
Yeah, 100%. Listen, it's a cold weekend in February. I'm all in on watching the All-Star game. That's just like, pour up a high life or something like that and watch the All-Star game on a Sunday night.
Well,
And then, they actually go for it at the end of the game, right? Because they're going for, I believe they renamed it the Kobe Bryant Trophy, right, for the winning team, which, rest in peace to Kobe Bryant and Gigi today. It's the 3-year anniversary of them passing away today. So,
wow.
Yep, absolutely. Rest in peace to both of them and prayers to the family and Vanessa Bryan and the kids and stuff like that. But I enjoy the All-Star game, right? And, having in Utah, probably not going to be the best party scene that weekend.
No
but the game itself is fun.
Game itself is fun, and now we'll see the reserves announced soon, and then the dunk contest. I don't know who we'll get. It's what was it? Obi Toppin won last year, and we're looking for something like we wanted to see sort of repeat of what who was it? Aaron Gordon and Zach LaVine were able to do years ago. Man,
that Zion in it. Put Zion in there.
Zion in there for sure.
Zion, this is your
John
time.
Morant. The dream would be Zion and John Morant, and then 2 other dudes. I don't know. Yeah. I think they said Mac McClung might go. I'm like, come on, man. He's in the G League. You got to have some star power. Come on with it. Yes, indeed. With 14 days before, I think it's 14 days before the trade deadline. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ross. But did you see the Bulls doing anything at this point or any big shakeups?
No.
Man,
I think this is a team that you're going to get. I think the team that you have right now, they're going to run it back. They're going to put all the blame on the fact that they don't have Lonzo Ball right now, and I think they're going to run this back for not only for the rest of this year, but I fully expect them to extend Nikola Vucevic because I don't think they want to admit that they probably made a mistake with that trade. And I think you're going to see basically the exact same core group next year. I think it would have to take something catastrophic over the next 2 weeks. Like they don't win any single game to make a deal. And I think if they did make a deal, it would be DeMar DeRozan being traded. Unfortunately, I think he would be a guy that would probably be on the move. And they would just kind of retool the whole thing around, Zach LaVine because he's younger. And as the cap goes up in the NBA, his deal looks a lot better. Whereas DeMar DeRozan is well into his 30s. You just don't know when he's going to hit that wall. So you kind of want to get something for him while you can. To me, Memphis would be a great fit for DeMar DeRozan if they decide to trade him because they have multiple first-round picks that they can trade, and they have some contracts that they can match up. And Memphis, we didn't even talk about the whole Shannon Sharp thing from last Friday with Dylan Brooks and stuff like that. And then ever since then, Memphis actually has not won a game. Memphis is in dire need of some quality veteran leadership that can get them over the hump in the playoffs, especially when you see the Warriors and Draymond Green is barking at you. What better person than a savvy vet like DeMar DeRozan to help you navigate through that? So that's what I would be taking a look at. And that's only if the Bulls don't win any game the rest of the stretch, which right now they're in front of me here down 26-21 against the Charlotte Hornets. But
a lot of loyalty to that roster in front of them, for sure.
Yes. And
for what reason we don't know.
It's a Jerry Reinsdorf too. We know how Jerry Reinsdorf does things. He holds on to things way too long, and he holds on to mediocrity way too long.
He certainly does. That Shannon Sharp. Did you order the Shannon Sharp sweater?
$3,000. Let me tell you something.
$3,000 on that.
If you knew the damage that I did in Paris last week,
I don't want to know.
My credit cards are still flaming right now from the work that I did in Paris last week. It was Men's Fashion Week. They had these things. They had these designer items that you just don't get in the States. And I had to buy an extra piece of luggage just to bring some clothes back.
God damn, Ross. Look at you. You'll be out here looking like Kyle Kuzma with one of those ridiculous sweaters. That's what I picture.
It got aggressive. Listen, the game at Paris when we were there, it had Pharrell, Magic Johnson, Tony Parker, Joakim Noah was there, Pusha T was there. Jerry Lonzo was there, who's the creator of Fear God. He's from Chicago. His father is Jerry Manuel, ex manager of the White Sox. There were Victor Wembanyama was there. Celebrities galore all over the place. It was a sight to be seen at. I had a hot dog with mayonnaise on it because that's how they do there. And we were drinking. They served.
Scrape it off. What the fuck are you doing?
No, it wasn't terrible. It wasn't terrible. Listen, when you're in a different culture, you have to go and have the items of different culture. Instead of beer on tap, they had champagne. The champagne was on tap.
How does that work with the bubbles? That's interesting.
I don't know. Yeah. It was amazing. Paris for you.
Champagne on tap. I'd like a 32-ounce champagne, please. Mayo on a hot dog? There's so many. We were talking in the pre-show with you and me, Aldo, about the weird European things. And also beer is usually room temp, and that's how they prefer it.
Yes. Their eggs are room temperature, which I mean, you can't get any eggs in this. You can't get any eggs in this world anywhere right now. Yeah.
You just fucking cook the egg and leave it out. Just give it to me hot. Gotta microwave my damn egg.
Shout out to Paris, though. Amazing time. Great food.
It looked fun. Good for you.
Great vibe. Great coach. Shout out to London, too. Had a blast in London as well.
Yeah,
Fish and chips.
When the Euro strong, yeah, there you go. Parisians hate deodorant.
They do hate deodorant. It was
all right.
It was getting really ripe in those bars.
I can't fuck with you if you hate deodorant. I don't know, man. You gotta always spritz yourself or something. You gotta walk around with a candle. God forbid. God forbid. We said farewell to David Crosby, who died. He was one of my favorite folk musicians and just a hilarious character and co-writer of a lot of great songs. Obviously had a lot of success with Crosby, Stills and Nash and CSNY when Neil Young was there, and just a great talent and one of those great voices of the 60s and he had a just crazy drug problem. So, I mean, the fact that he made it to 81 was astonishing too. Yes. And then from the radio, Ted Lynn Bremer died, dying after his Chicago legend, Lynn Bremer of 93 XRT, after a tough battle with cancer for sure. And Terry Hemmert, it was only fitting that she broke the news live on radio, but what an outpouring of love for him too. Makes you proud of that scene in Chicago. It was really, really cool to see.
100%. And amazing. He was like a secret food critic as well, too. Speaking of talking about food, he loved the Chicago food scene. So, listen, it is currently Restaurant Week in Chicago. It's extended for about another week plus. So if you're in Chicagoland area, in honor of him, go out there and support some of these great restaurants that we have in the area and partake in Restaurant Week and have yourself a nice cold beer or a glass of champagne.
Get your glass of champagne
and you could be like the French and dip your fries in mayonnaise if you want to, which listen, Americans do it too. They just fucking call it aioli, but it's mayonnaise. So I don't want to hear it. It's the same. It's the same thing.
Touche. God damn. Ross, if I got $16 from a Snapchat settlement, what are you spending $16 on?
It's got to go to my credit card bill right now.
Well, you fucking credit card. What can you get? What's the best bang for your buck? $16 right now.
You could probably maybe. You can go to Pilsen Yards, which was back in our old stomping grounds. Sure. And I believe if you go there Wednesday night, or you can go to Dusick Tavern, which is right down the street, and you can get yourself a $15 High Life burger and a shot for $15, and that'll save yourself $1.
Yeah,
but please tip 20%. Yes, tip 20%.
Are you finally watching The Last of Us? You caught up on it? I saw Nick Offerman's going to be in the episode. That's cool.
Yeah, I'm going to start it tomorrow. Only one episode in. Obviously, with the travel, we were not able to catch up on it, so I'm going to fire it up tomorrow. I was able to watch on the airplane. Banshees of Inisherin, which is now nominated for Best Picture. It is easily one of my favorite movies of the year. It's got a tremendous performance from Colin Farrell in it, as well as Barry Koenig, who's nominated for an Oscar as well. He was in Dunkirk, and then he made that split-second cameo at the end of Batman as the Joker. So just kind of teasing that, but absolutely outstanding movie. It's about a guy who just doesn't want to be friends with his best friend anymore. It's very depressing. But it's an amazing movie.
I love the way you boiled it down to that. I want to watch it. I can fucking see that at that age too. That's great. All right. Well, on that note, Ross, we'll end this show. Thanks to everybody for listening in, and thanks to the Barflies for chiming in the chat. Remember, if you've missed any of the show, it'll be up on YouTube after this, Spotify, iTunes. Like, subscribe, tell a friend or two. Follow us on Twitter. Follow me at The Real Evan Mac. Follow Ross at Ross Reed. Remember to stick around for our friends with Science Fiction later on at 9 p.m. Central Time.
Megan.
Terrifying that shit has already been renewed for Megan 2. They will review Megan.
They had the scene where she's ripping the boy's ear off. Go watch Megan. It's fucking crazy.
All right, maybe.
Yeah.
And I won't do it high. For now, we say deuces, everybody. Be good to each other. Enjoy the AFC and NFC Championship game. We'll talk to y'all next week. So long, everybody.
Peace.